Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Cowlitz River Restoration. I'm going to be refinishing this really cute desk for you. It's a gift from a client for me to flip, and it's not an antique, it's new, old. I'm going to start off by taking off all the hardware because I want to paint the hardware because I'm going to be painting it kind of cool tones, so I want the hardware to be cool tones also. So first I'm going to take it all off. Take off all the hardware, collect up all my screws. I put all my screws into this really cool little cup I have that's magnetic on the bottom so that they don't fall out. Isn't that awesome? Then you wash up the hardware. I put it onto the top of a tote lid and then I spray it. I'm gonna crush up some tin foil and then I put my screws into the tin foil so that they're held stable while I paint them, because we want our screws to be the same color as our hardware. The color that I'm going to paint the hardware, I used a metallic silver. So I like to wear a glove when I'm spray painting. Otherwise, I've noticed I get overspray on my hands, and spray paint is so hard to get off of your hands. So spray paint that. Once it's dried, then I went over it with a clear coat to seal it up. I can set that aside, let it dry, and now I'm going to clean up the desk. I'm vacuuming it out, getting it all prepped and cleaned. After it was vacuumed, I went over it with a rag and my vinegar spray. It's vinegar, water, and Dawn dish soap, and cleaned that all up and got it prepped and ready for paint. I'm going to paint this desk with 4 different colors. When I'm doing a piece that I want to look distressed, I've noticed that 4 is my magic number. I'm using charcoal chalked paint by Rust-Oleum to prime this piece. I really like using charcoal to prime when I'm doing a very distressed or weathered look on a piece. I also really like using the charcoal as a primer when I'm using dark colors because it just really helps to give good coverage. So I'm going to go ahead and just brush this on the entire piece with my paintbrush. I'm going to distress this piece pretty heavily, so the coverage doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay if some of the wood shows through. And again, I'm doing 4 different colors, so I'm just going to slap this one on, and then I'll show you my next color that I'm going to do, so stay tuned. I'm using my favorite short-handled brush while I'm painting this, but I noticed that while I was trying to get into all these little nooks and crannies, I was just getting paint all over my hand and also like bumping into the paint. So I decided to go ahead and switch out to a long-handled brush so that I could have kind of better reach and reach in there and get all those little nooks and crannies without bumping into my paint or trying to shove my hand into a small space. It is kind of helpful to have a couple different sized paintbrushes to accommodate whatever it is that you're working on. After I've got my first coat of charcoal, I went ahead and did a Rust-Oleum chalked Serenity Blue. It's funny because it's called Serenity Blue, but it really doesn't have much of a blue tint to it to my eye. To me, it looks more of almost a seafoamy green, but it's very, very light, and that's totally cool. It's okay. So I went over it with the Serenity Blue, and again, I don't mind if the gray or even some of the wood is showing through from underneath because I'm really trying to get a very distressed, layered look in this piece. So I'm just basically dry brushing the whole thing. I don't even have to have my paintbrush completely saturated with paint. In fact, it's probably better if it's not. If it does come on a little thicker, I just use that excess paint to smear it and thin it out because I want a thin layer all over it because like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and distress this pretty heavily. After I went over the entire piece with the Serenity Blue, I'm going to go over it again, dry brushing technique with an Aged Gray by Rust-Oleum chalk paint. Also, again, you don't want a lot of saturation on your brush. I probably dipped my brush a billion times. It's just lightly getting a little paint on my brush and then wiping it on. Lots of wiping, just to get that layered, distressed look. And there's my son saying hello. I didn't want to cut it out because he's adorable. So again, I'm just going to cover this entire piece and then I'll go over it with my next color. I decided to leave the drawers and the little shelves, the charcoal gray, because I love that two-tone look and I love just the visual interest that it gives. You will see, it looks really awesome when it's done. Once I'm done with the Aged Gray, I used a seafoam green that I had mixed for me through Behr, because Behr chalk paint is available through Home Depot and they can mix just about any color under the sun for you. I can't remember the exact name, but it's kind of a seafoamy green that I used. And again, super light with this one. It's just a little bit of an accent color to add a little bit of visual interest. You can almost hardly tell that it's there, but like I said, 4 colors is my sweet spot when I'm doing a piece like this. When I'm trying to create that layered paint look, that's my go-to number. 4 different colors that complement one another, and I've had really good luck with it. After I was done with all my painting, I did have to take a little tiny painter's brush and touch up around my charcoal accent so that it was nice and clean looking. I didn't take a video of it, but I did do that in any place where white or gray or the other colors smeared into my charcoal accent color. Once I have my 4 colors on there, I have my husband help me move this onto the porch because I don't want to sand it in my house. I sanded it with a 60 grit sandpaper. That's actually for my sander, but this is what I had, and you use what you've got. So I folded it over and I'm using a 60 grit. I was a little nervous because I wasn't sure if it was going to be too aggressive, but it was perfect. I couldn't have asked for better results with it. I will probably use a 60 grit every time now because I've been using a 120 and I kept having to change out my sandpaper, and I was afraid that this would leave lines. You know, it's like just too aggressive, but honestly it just meant that I just sanded a little softer and I didn't have to put as much pressure and I didn't have to keep changing out my sandpaper. The 60 grit for this style was great. once I had the distressing exactly where I wanted it, I went ahead and vacuumed up all of the chalk dust because I want to wax it and I don't want it to have dust to make it all grimy. So I vacuumed it and then I wiped it all down with a cloth to get all the debris off so it's good and ready for wax. The wax that I used is by Minwax. You can use it on paint, you can use it on wood. I'm super happy with the durability that I've received from this finishing wax. I used my wax brush to apply the wax all over the desk. Except for on the shelves, I had a hard time fitting my brush into those little nooks. So I went ahead and used a lint-free rag to really get down in there so I could seal up those areas. Here it is, all waxed up and ready for hardware. I put that hardware back on and there it is. I love the way that silver hardware looks with those cool tones. This desk is super awesome in the fact that it has a little key so it locks. There it is, open. I'm so pleased with how it turned out. I can't wait to get it listed on the marketplace. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope that you'll like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks. Bye.